Hi, good morning and welcome to Soiree in the City. We're here with Mark Brown, all the way up from
Surrey,
so he's travelled a long way today to speak to us. Now, I'd like to do the introductions. First of all, we have the lovely Leash and the founder and CEO of Sparkle Sheffield. And I'm going to let her introduce Mark because she's been with him for a very long time.
Okay, yes, I've known Mark for about 6 years.
Yeah, about 6 years.
About 6 years, and I started an online support group called Proud Parents of Autistic Children, and this is how I met Mark. He was one of my consultants on the site, and we helped a lot of people on that site, still do now and again. So, Mark, if you explain where you're from and your background.
Okay, I'm an independent special needs advisor. I've worked with people who have got special needs for about 35 years now. And since 2009, I work with people as an independent within the southeast of England and London area. And I work with them within the homes and with the professionals and anybody else, as well as doing talks. And we look at various sort of subjects.
Oh, brilliant. So, as everybody knows me, I'm Kerry, I'm son with autism. So, and Rana, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Rani and I've been with Sparkle for over 2 years.
About
2 years, but I've known Leash a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Just a little bit longer than that. And yeah, I've got a daughter who's on the autistic spectrum as well.
Hi Myra, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry.
Alright.
I'm a new member to the Sparkle team. My name's Myra, but I've known Leash for a good number of years. I've got a little boy who I adore, and he's 9 years old, who's on the autism spectrum as well.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got some questions for our specialist Mark, and these questions are all with what we really want to know, aren't they, basically? And you know, there's a lot of personal questions what Mark answers, and really sort of things that not everybody wants to speak about, could we say?
Taboo subjects, I think.
Taboo subjects, definitely.
Basically, the answers that everybody wants to know to the questions that people are too afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what? Yeah, exactly. And you can watch this and think, right, they've answered them for us. What do you think to that?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That's better. So we're going to ease you in gently.
Right, okay.
We're going to start with just basically, how did you get into working with these kids?
Right, well, it started when I was 13. I went into being a volunteer at a club in the Mitcham area, which is part of London.
Okay.
Where it was for children, all of whom had learning disabilities. Then from there, I decided I wanted to take this as a career and became a learning disability nurse and spent best part of 20 years or so in the NHS. And then along came 2009 when I decided to go independent, and at that point I was working with a range of people, but just through the nature of diagnosis and all those sorts of things, a huge proportion of the ones I work with are along the autistic spectrum, or undiagnosed, but obviously along the autistic spectrum.
Okay.
And so, you know, from there, it's just sort of carried on, and now I work with children and adults as well. And although it's not primarily for people with autism, it does work out to be that.
Oh, brilliant. So we've had a little brief introduction on how you got to meet Leash, which is how you got to know about Sparkle, really. But what we would like to ask you is, do you think, other than Sparkle, do you think there's enough support out there, other than charities, like via the NHS and places like that?
No. I think one of the difficulties is that a lot of the support that's out there, especially when it comes to the statutory services like the NHS social services, they look at people often with autism as though they're pages out of a book. And so what then happens is they will do what they feel needs to be done, whereas they need to be, as I will say, getting off their backsides and getting to meet the kids and actually working with the kids within the homes and talking to children. When I used to be a community nurse before I was independent, we never but we very rarely met any children because we were working 9 to 5s.
Okay.
And so what would then happen is, unless they were off on holiday, you never met them, and so you never really got the feel for it. Whereas doing what I do now is very much about working with them specifically. But when you look at things like CAMS, for example, you know, a lot of them just sort of feel like dealing with medication and just doing the diagnosis and off you go.
Just out of curiosity, what do you feel about medicating a child? I've got my views, and I kind of know your views, but I'd like you to kind
Okay. I'm not against it and I'm not for it. It's one of those situations, the medications that generally I work with are the things to do with anxiety. But what I always say to people is, if a child needs to have medication, there also should be a practical side to it as well. So that the idea is, you've got somebody, and I've had quite a few where I've actually suggested they need to be on medication because the anxiety levels are so high that we can't do any work. But then the idea always is to then do the work so that either they can come off the medication or they're on a minimal dose. So, you know, to give you an example, I had somebody who many years ago I started working with, and I still do, and he was curled up in a tight ball in the corner of his bedroom and couldn't talk to me. I said to the parents, you know, he's going to need something because he's so stressed. We're now, I think it's 3 or 4 years down the line, and he's on the minimal dose that he can actually have. And he talks, he insults me, he jokes with me, he tells me what's going on. But the hope would be that he comes off of that medication, or that at the moment, for some strange reason, and we really can't work this out, even the smallest dose, if he came off of that, it would just tip him over the edge.
Yeah, I do think it's one of those situations where only as an individual, as parents and carers, and depending on where you are on the spectrum, medication might not work for all children, but there are some families who look at anything, no matter how much they might not want their child to be on medication, they've got to look at the stress levels and the coping mechanisms for the family, and it, like you say, it takes the edge off for them to then move on, cope and deal with the situation. So you monitor it as you go along, but then what I suppose what we're always worried about are, not for ourselves, but we've come across parents who see it as the easy way out.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just medication. You think, okay, what are you doing along with it? And they're like,
and often last resort, it's often you know.
Sorry, but that's like what Mark said.
Yeah.
It's not just down to the parent, it's down to the authorities, and it depends if the parent can get that help. Because, for example, if they've gone to CAMS and they've just been given the medication, I mean, that boy clearly needed it. If all he could do was stay in that ball without that medication, for anyone to reach out to him and give him help, he needed something to be able to ease his anxiety, so he needed that medication. But then he also needed therapy, other therapies,
Yeah.
you know, some sort of, I don't know, whether it was talking therapies or anything, but if that's not available to the parents, then what other choice do they have apart from the medication?
And that's often the big issue. Certainly, I mean, I go to different authorities in the whole of the southeast of England and London, and CAMS is CAMS wherever you go. And that's often the big difficulty. Their only way of doing things is to give the medication, and it's not just CAMS, it's other organisations as well. But then they don't have the ability, because a lot of the stuff that they provide is very generic. And generic stuff doesn't work for people who've got autism because of the way they interpret the world. And so, you know, because there isn't that facility there, nothing happens. And the sad thing is, I mean, I actually look at the fact of how many people I work with at any one time. And, you know, it's a sad reflection of the lack of services. I mean, at the moment, I think I'm working with 45 individuals, We're just putting out a database together concerning all the people that I've ever worked with in the last 7 years, and we're now at the moment I think up to about 200 people, different individuals who I've worked with, and it's because they haven't got services to access.
But I mean, Mark, you've worked with the NHS, or now you have become independent, so you've actually worked on both sides of the fence. So, I mean, my view has always been, the authorities will always be the authorities. There's always small print that goes with them. They have limited resources, they have limited finances, and to be honest with you, they are just professionals. Some of them have children, some of them don't have children, some of them have children with special needs, some of them have no idea what special needs are, but yet they're a specialist in with that field, which I find quite, which I can't get my head around sometimes. However, I still think the authorities can only do what they can by the book, and it does come down to the parents, or based on, yes, some parents need more support, families need more support than others, and more guidance than others. As parents and carers, you're the one that's got to keep the boat afloat. You've got to keep looking, you've got to keep trying. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, some people might disagree, but I think it's, if as carers you leave it all up to the authorities, well, it's not going to work, because like you say, the NHS, especially as this, they have got the book, and the autistic spectrum says it's like this, this, and this. Your child will either fall in this category, this category, this category. But the reality is, you can't put them in any box. No size fits. They don't fit in any category, and you've got to mould, and adapt scenarios, adapt situation, adapt therapies to meet individual needs, but only if somebody comes out from the office space into the home, meet the child, meet the parents.
Unfortunately, at the moment, in terms of resources and finances, that's not happening.
No.
And I think that's the bottom line, really.
Yeah.
It's our children deserve the best. They do deserve the best, but they're not getting it, and they're not getting it because of finance. It's not because of anything else, it's because of finance, and that's the scary thing. It's one of the reasons why we started Sparkle Sheffield. We started to support ourselves because nobody else would, and it's a shame that we've done this, and it's actually, we're growing because there's lack of services, lack of understanding, lack of finances, and all those, that combination of things, it's really sad that,
And it spirals.
yeah,
I mean,
out of control.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, Rani, about, sometimes parents have got to push. But sometimes I think, I'm not just talking about me, I've seen it from other parents' perspectives as well, others who have got more than one child on the autistic spectrum, that just a day-to-day life is a daily struggle.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, having to fight and to get, these sometimes basic help for your child.
Yeah.
It is exhausting. So although yes, it is the parents' right to do it, it would be more helpful if somebody could say, well, these are the services that your child should have, because for some disabilities, yes, people are told that these are the things that are available, whereas I feel with autism, like Mark just said, you can get the medication, and then you're just told, okay, bye-bye, but that's just not enough. And sometimes, yes, maybe it is lack of information and lack of trying to sort through it, but it's not always easy to sort of find that information out there, that what is available, what can I find, what can I do, and that's why people do turn to places like Sparkle and other autism charities. But let's face it, when your child's having a meltdown or you're having an off day, life is hard on a day-to-day basis, so it just would be nice sometimes to be able to have that information given to you, or rather than you having to try
It boils down to what you said, it is due because of lack of finite
Finance,
funding
yes.
and resources, and
Yeah.
sometimes the lack of education. It is a huge, I do think what autism means to me is different to what it means to you, to somebody else's lifestyle, to somebody else's home. Yes, we all come under the same umbrella, but every child is different, you know, and it's almost like which I suppose too, you know, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I suppose you can understand why the resources are scarce. If you adapt something to suit one situation, then it might apply
Won't
to
suit another, will it?
it won't suit another.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of grey matter.
I
There's
don't
a
know-
lot
I don't-
of grey matter.
Do you know what? I don't even think it's that. I
What do you
think I know the spectrum is wide, but it's
There's still
in order-
similarities, isn't there?
no, because they could actually, if they sent, wrong thing to say, they could do this a different way. If you go out and assess every single child and find out exactly what the problem is and how to help them, it will actually save money because you can direct them to exactly where they need to be. Whereas what they're doing is just directing them anywhere,
Yeah.
which is then sending them back to here and back to here and back to there, when they don't need to do that. Assess the child fully, understand what's going on with the child, what the problem is,
Yeah.
what they need, and then direct them to that particular person instead of sending them all over
A
the
lot of times
the
though,
place.
when you, sorry to interrupt, a lot of times when you'll get referred to these places though is when you're at rock bottom. And sometimes just going back to medication, sometimes you feel as though you're left that is the only option. Now I know your beliefs on medication. Could you just tell us what they are, Leash?
No, actually, I agree with Mark. I think
Yeah.
sometimes medication is a good thing, depending on the child. But
Yeah.
my son is classed as severely autistic.
Yeah.
He's also presents as selective mute,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't put my son on medication,
No.
and that's my preference, and that's
Yeah.
because I would prefer to maybe try natural methods,
Yeah.
or just basically, I want him to be him.
Yeah.
And I
yes.
feel that medication will stop him from thinking and being who he is as a person. And I don't want to change who he is as a person.
No.
Jay is Jay, and he's the founder of Sparkle. If he wasn't here, we would not be
wouldn't-
here today.
Exactly.
So and that potential that I can see that he's got, and that creativity that he's got, that they said he wouldn't have, and he has got, I could cramp that by giving back medication, but that's just my opinion, and my opinion as a mother for my son.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that for everybody,
No,
I'm saying
there
it
is
for
no-
my child.
There is no right and wrong answer.
No.
It is just purely based on the fact that it is for that individual child, and it's totally up to that person and that parent, you know.
I think going back to the issue of the services as well, I think
Yeah.
one of the things I tend to find is services don't necessarily think outside the box
No.
and don't sort of take up others. So for example, I do a lot of stuff around puberty, sexuality and inappropriate behaviour.
Yeah.
And I remember having two local authorities that bordered each other. So geographically there was no issues. I was having something like 6 people between them, all individually being referred, all for the same sort of sexuality work. And I was saying to the different authorities, look, if we put this together as a group, we clump the money together, instead of them each getting 4 sessions, and then that's the end of it, we will end up with 24 sessions.
Fantastic idea.
They said, no, we can't do that,
Because
just because they can't do that.
They all come together.
Yeah. And you know, when you look at those sorts of situations, the sexuality stuff that I do, you know, you're looking at somewhere between 12 and 30 sessions.
I mean,
of work.
4 sessions and 24 huge different
exactly,
sessions.
Exactly. And you know, those 4 sessions will just be the start of the process. So there will be more sessions that
And
will
it's
have to be paid for.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated at that because that's a resource that is our children aren't getting because of what?
Because
Why?
it's not about
Why
the
is
child.
that?
It's
It's
not
not about the
It's
child.
about business. It's business.
And that's what
And that-
upsets me.
yes.
That's what
why
upsets me.
the parents need to get more on board. That's why they should ask the parents, because we don't just see it from a professional point of view. We live it, and I think that's what maybe everybody, should really.
Maybe we could advocate
Yeah,
for it more. Or
definitely. This is what we're doing, isn't
Well,
it?
this is what we're doing right now. But this is why Sparkle Sheffield is doing as well as it is, because it is doing well, and it's doing well because we aren't thinking about the money.
No.
We're thinking about our children, our drive, our focus, our children, because it seems like nobody's going to help us get the best for our children. So we're going to do it ourselves, and we'll do it the best way we can. And also letting people understand what autism is about. We're doing all of that too, because it's important, because it makes our children's lives so much better.
I'm happy that Mark's, I know it's raising awareness, and us mums sort of tend to take the helm, but I'm really glad that Mark's also holding sessions for fathers, and that fathers are coming in now, and they're sort of more willing to ask questions. And
Mark really didn't have any choice.
yeah, well, Mark didn't have the choice, but
Didn't really have any choice.
at least the fathers are starting to come into these sessions now. And
We have
they're
more with
opening
the
their eyes.
fathers. We have more fathers than we do mothers. They are.
I think the
Isn't
mothers
that
are thinking, get out the house, and you deal with it. I've had enough. All these years I've dealt with it, now it's
Well,
yours.
they need to be aware as well, especially with, like you said, the questions that nobody wants
Yep.
But
asking.
they were
but they're there.
brilliant. They were brilliant yesterday.
Yeah, we had what? There was about 12 or 13.
There was about
I think.
12 or 13. The
And
first
some
one
of
was
those
about
were
20 odd.
some of those were from the ones from last year when we did the full 2-day course.
And they loved it. They were so receptive to everything. They asked some very interesting questions, Mark said. Some very interesting. I came out the room to give them their space because I thought, but it was nice to see.
So, what I want to ask you, Mark, is I know autism means a lot to you, and you sort of just ended up in that field,
Yep.
didn't you, more than anything? But do you have any personal connections to somebody who's got autism?
No,
Not
not
at
at all.
all?
Not at all.
Wow.
It's all completely through. All of the work, my connections for special needs and for autism has been with the club, which I now actually run it after all these years. And every single member that was there as a child has now come up with me. So we've all grown up together. I suppose I do sort of have a family connection because one of them has always been classed as my younger brother that I've never had. And now he's next to kin because unfortunately parents passed away. But he was also my best man at my wedding, and we always have birthdays together because his birthday, he's a year and a day younger than me, so his birthday's the day before mine. But apart from club, no, it's just.
So just your brother from another mother?
Yeah.
So, Mark, then,
Yeah.
do you actually think, do you connect with autism parents? Do you connect? Do you feel what we feel? Do you feel what the fathers feel, what the brothers feel, what the mothers feel? Because, yes, we're a Sparkle, we are together. Yes, we have family members, we have friends, we go out, we do everything together. But if you look at us in our Sparkle office or our key members, not in a million years we'd be ever thought we'd come together, but autism has brought together, and that's how we're coming around, because we understand, we connect because we understand the autism. Yes, I love my family because I love my friends to bits, but even when we go out, I think there is that missing piece of that puzzle where they don't fully get me, they don't fully understand my kids. But you have, and I've always said that only one autistic mum will get the other autistic mum. One autistic mother will understand the other autistic mother. If you haven't got that connection, do you think you feel it? Do you get it, or
What I would do is I'd turn that around and say actually the person to ask would be any of the parents I work with, really. It's a case of whether or not I connect with the parent is probably more I connect with the child, because I spend most of my time working with the child, trying to work out how their logical brain is working, trying to work out ways forward. I always say, and I said it a couple of times this week where I've had all the talks, one of the things that I always say is I'm highly honoured because the children and the adults I work with, they let me into their world, and you know they don't often let people into their world. And so by me being able to be the person that they talk to, actually, you know, I'm delving into it.
Yeah, you're doing something right, Mark, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I'm still going strong.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, I mean, I suppose within that there is a bit of, you know, empathising with parents because of seeing so many parents and seeing the angles of it.
Do you at times get to the point where you think, I feel autistic now?
Oh, I know.
Do you know
I've been told primarily by my daughters that I'm probably somewhere along the spectrum of ADHD. I can't focus on anything. I have a part-time secretary who keeps me focused on what I've got to do, and I will be in the office doing an email. So I go, oh yeah, I need to do it, and she'll go, no, email, do your email. So
I was one of those. Concentrate.
I think we've all got a bit of autism in
Yeah,
us. We
definitely.
all have, and it's just something comes along and just enhances it. But I think, you know, apart from anything else, because I work with children most of the time, I'm told I'm quite childish anyway. So
Yeah,
that
that's
does
No,
help.
well, no, I mean, I'm not questioning you because I've been to your talks and your seminars, Mark, and I do think you are great. And you know, sometimes, you know, when we have listened to you, we thought, is that simple? Why did I think of that?
Yeah.
You just think is that simple? Why didn't I think of that?
When you're living it, go around,
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
and you
see
do
it.
need somebody to actually
Yeah.
point out the obvious.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it's
Yeah, and
so
I will often find that with families that it will just be because I come in and I'm just ignoring and I don't live it. You know, as I say to people, even when I used to work in residential homes and I used to manage residential homes, you know, if we had a rough day, I would go home. I always remember my parents always used to know if it was a bad day because I'd go home, have a single whiskey and they'd say, fine, okay, we won't talk to you. Yeah? I would then go to sleep, wake up in the morning refreshed, whereas most of the parents I work with can't do that. So, and when you're in that situation and you can't do that, you don't have time to be able to just step back and go, what's going on? And as I say to people, that's what we do. I don't do anything special. It's just, I just see a different way.
I mean, Mark, when I had a one-to-one with you, like you said, how long you've been working with children with autism and you know, with other children with special needs. And I had that one-to-one with you, and we discussed. I mean, I know you'd have a talk first, but we discussed puberty.
Yep.
And I feel that you helped me a lot in making me more knowledgeable. I mean, at the time, my son was only 8, but what I didn't realise at the time, and I can see it in him, is that he's already sort of on the onset of early puberty, and how you made me realise that it can come earlier in our children,
A lot earlier.
and how I've had to have certain little talks with him, go, yeah, he can't quite comprehend what's going on, but what is appropriate, where and when, you know, like you said, some of those awkward questions, because he doesn't quite realise, but that phase where children, you know, where I kept getting told, oh, he's going to get out, oh, it's just a boy's thing, that they touch their private parts and he's going to get out of that. Well, you know, unfortunately my son never quite got out of that. It's a lot better, but it's never been something that's completely gone away. But now I've been able to sort of understand it more, rather than shouting at him and saying don't do that, and making his anxieties even more, because he's a very passive child, but he is a very anxious child, and it would just set him off even more. I realised, well, one, it was more of a sensory stimulation rather than
it helps.
Yeah, and they get the sensory stimulation in various ways, but also I've had to explain where it's appropriate, when it's appropriate, rather than him just doing it anywhere when he feels anxious. You know, so I found that talk really helped, because even though I was sort of learning more and not shouting. My husband was feeling embarrassed and he was sort of shouting, and that wasn't helping. It was just sort of, the situation was just escalating, whereas after that talk, it really did help diffuse the situation.
So this has hit the nail on the head basically. The taboo subject in boys and girls with autism is that they do get, they go through puberty a lot earlier, don't they, than what, than neurotypical kids, and this is your, well, not speciality, but...
They call you the pubes man.
Yeah.
They call you actually call them the pubes man. One thing that I learned as well, which I didn't know, Mark told me about, I knew Mark, as I said earlier, so I learned eventually, but one of the things that I never knew until Mark told me was that my child can develop epilepsy during puberty, which I didn't know that, and it can happen. I can understand why it would happen, but I didn't know that could actually happen, which I'm so glad he told me, because if I had seen my son having an epileptic fit and not knowing what's going on, and not realising that it's actually because he's going through puberty why that happened, and this is what makes it so good to have somebody like Mark, because Mark trains the Sparkle Sheffield staff as well. We didn't mention that, and he trains us, so he's our main man. So he trains us at all sorts. He's our main man.
But while we've got him, can we actually, because we said we were going to talk about some embarrassing issues, can we actually talk about
I think it's a good idea to do it.
Because we have sort of, we've kind of skimmed over the surface,
No.
and if there are people
That's
who
not
are
gonna
wanting
skim.
to know certain things, so can we actually say how that would trigger?
Yeah,
I've got no idea about it.
What with the epilepsy? Well, I mean, because the research that was done on it was, I mean, we're talking decades ago, but it still remains 33% of people with autism will develop some form of epilepsy. They didn't really describe why, but to me, it's probably down to the fact you've got the hormones racing around, the brain electrics have been sparking off, and because you've got the whatever physical damage there might be within the brain that's linked with the autism, it just sparks it off.
But I felt the reason why I thought that it would probably trigger it off is because coming up to orgasm, that's your whole body. It's different, isn't it? So basically, what I thought is because their senses are 5 times heightened. I can imagine that must be like a really incredible, like a different kind of feeling, because it can be 5 times more than what we would feel in an orgasm. Yes, I've had quite a few. But I'm just saying, we can talk about these things. This is what we're here for.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're not sat with people that are watching it. Obviously. So that's a bonus. No, but this is a massive, big deal in
that's
boys
scary,
and girls.
isn't it? So at least we know what to look out for.
But also the other thing with puberty, and I'm spending half my life at the moment doing puberty and that sort of thing, especially with the fact of I'm doing research into it, is the sex education. Because what tends to happen is sex education is generally looked at from the physical point of view, whereas people with autism, they need all the other bits. They need to know the social side. They need to know the rules and regulations. I also work with sex offenders who have got special needs, and most of them are not paedophiles, they're not rapists, they are people that make mistakes. I've got somebody at the moment who's in prison for 3 years who's autistic and has ADHD.
So is it because he didn't know what he was doing?
Yep, and he'd gone to 2 special needs schools that supposedly had sex education, but they didn't talk about the boundaries that were social boundaries and legal boundaries. Even down to things, and I always talk about this, the puberty talks I do, the fact that us men have a set of rules that we follow, that are unwritten when we go and stand and do a wee at the urinals. But nobody ever talks about that because it's something we learn naturally.
What are those rules?
My urinal etiquette. And basically what it involves is, for example, men do not go to the toilet in pairs, you women do.
You go groups, what are you about?
Well, put it like this. Yesterday I was talking about puberty, and it seems like they didn't know about the fact of We've actually got nightclubs down in London that have 2 toilets in each cubicle, so you can sit having a wee while you're talking to your friend.
What?
What
And-
girls?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So well, I mean, then we go in on our own. We don't talk in the men's toilets. You know,
There's
if
been
you,
hours in there.
I know.
yeah, exactly.
Selfies.
If you look at down our way, we've got Legoland, Chesington Zoo, and Fort Park. If you, and don't get me wrong, I don't hang around toilets.
Whatever. Whatever, love.
But when you look at the dynamics, Legoland is very child orientated. So what you have is you have lots of kids going in with their dads, going, where are we going? What we? And you hear the dads go. Shh, shh, shh. By the time you get to Fort Park, where it's more teenagery, they've started to develop their skills in understanding. So the men's toilets, quite often in Fort Park, are completely quiet.
Wow, I never knew that.
So yeah, so we don't talk. The direction we look when we stood. Now this, remembering this only when you're at the urinal. You only look there, or there when you're stood at the urinal, because you don't glance either side. Because if you do, you're probably going to get smacked. You don't concerning physical touch, and not anything sexual, but because sometimes with some of the urinals you have a little wall. Some men sort of put their arm on the wall, or you might have your legs slightly far apart. The moment somebody comes anywhere close to you, you're like this. And then when it comes to things like trousers, and this actually can be a big problem for a lot of people I work with, you don't have your trousers down, you have them up. So you have when you stood there having a wee, you undo your zip or you undo your buttons, and if it's a pair of tracksuits or jogging bottoms,
Just
up
put
and
it
over.
down.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
but
Well, you
this,
know what?
but this is neurotypical. This comes naturally.
Yeah.
But with an autistic individual, you have to actually tell them this.
Well, you know what? Do you know what else we haven't really taken in?
We
A
keep
lot
our
of them.
kids with us.
We are all single parents. Well, a lot of us are single parents, yeah. And if we're single parents, we're not going to be able to go in that toilet with that child eventually. So they need to learn this now.
And also
yeah,
what you need
it's
to remember
really
is
important.
most of the
Have we got boys?
schools and most centres, most of anything that's in the care educational profession is going to be female dominant. So when your children are going to school,
What they experience is
go out.
mostly, because I look most of the time, okay, I'm not a single parent, I've got my husband, but with him being full-time, working all the time, they know, I always say, my little boy's my little shadow. So everything he sees is majority female orientated.
Yeah.
If he goes to the bathroom, it's with me. So what is he experiencing? He's experiencing talking in the toilet.
Yeah.
He's experiencing, like you said, that it's okay, it is a cubicle, but you are looking. He's with me. He is
Yeah.
talking to me when he's sat in the toilet.
Stood next to you.
Yeah.
So because that's how it's safe. And if soon enough, okay, when I feel that it's not appropriate because I don't feel that right now it's safe for him to go alone, we'll just go in the disabled toilets. But he is always with me as a person, so he's never quite alone. There are a few times he goes in with his dad, but it's very rare. So all these things he's going to have to learn, but it is kind of like relearning because it's totally opposite to what he's been doing all his life so far.
I've got to say, I'm having a heart attack right now. Just seriously, I'm thinking to myself, I'm actually thinking to myself, Jay, because my son is a big child, and I'm not, he's big in size. I'm just wondering, as well. He comes at the moment. He's started to go to the toilet in the men's toilet, but I feel really scared for him because I'm not with him and I can't see if he's okay. So it's kind of worrying me, and I can't really. I'm trying not to take him to the girls' toilets or the ladies' toilets because people look at him. People look at him and
He's
go,
not as tall as you.
"What's he doing? Yeah, what's he doing in our toilet?" Do you know what I mean? So that's difficult.
Well, good
Then
thing.
I've got the disabled toilet. I've got my
Your radar.
radar key.
Yeah.
But I just
but then when you
I'm
look
having a
at
heart attack.
when you look at disabled toilets, there are some teenage boys with autism that will point blank refuse to go into the disabled toilets because I'm not seen as disabled. I'm
Yes.
not
Yes.
going in there.
Yeah, and it is an invisible
Identity.
disability, isn't it,
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
So for other people, like, I know with my son, I took him into a disabled loo, and then I've come out and there'd be somebody waiting in a wheelchair and they're looking at you
Yes.
as if to say, wow,
What were you doing in there?
yeah, you dickhead, what you know.
Okay,
not you.
pause.
No. What you doing? What?
You did really well. You went so long.
No, but it's true though. I've come out and
Yes.
thought, you know, somebody's looking at my son thinking, why is he using that toilet? And then really I'm thinking to myself,
And you feel you've
You
got to
know,
explain yourself.
which I do,
possibly.
I've got to
Yeah.
say, you know, he's got autism, have a nice day, you know, but I've got the confidence to say that, whereas some other moms haven't, you know what I mean?
I mean, I've used disabled toilets simply for the fact that my children are absolutely terrified of hand dryers.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely terrified of hand dryers or anybody using them, and they do this and they panic. So I just think if I'm in the disabled toilet, they don't hear
Nobody's
it.
gonna-
So and
I think we're going to have to make some of them cards. You know the cards that we've got anyway? Might
Yeah.
have to get ones
Yes.
for toilets.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Just to take with us for toilets.
but there's
Just-
that big discussion
just
like
make them
having unisex toilets, because obviously you've got people that are transgender now, and not now, I mean it's always happened, but it's becoming more aware, isn't it? You know, it's more out there now and accepted,
But-
you know.
So I've got to say this though, I did
Yeah.
tell Leash that it's, I don't know about other ASDA toilets,
Okay.
but the ASDA disabled toilet in Handsworth, on the outside toilet I just saw recently, it said, have you seen
Yeah,
it?
we've gotten down south.
Which I think is really nice.
Okay.
Not all disabilities
Yeah.
are visible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just thought, wow, that's really nice. And it's only been recently that I've
Oh,
seen
that's
that.
brilliant.
And I thought, that is fantastic.
And
Because it's true.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing concerning supermarkets, I don't know whether you've had it up here yet. We've got a couple of Tesco's that are doing autism-friendly shopping.
Yes.
shopping
Yes.
malls,
Yeah.
Yes. They
where
are.
they have no music. They turn the lights slightly down. They try to avoid as much. I mean, everybody else is in there as well, but they try and make it as autism-friendly as possible for a couple of hours. I think it's on a Sunday morning.
A lot
Yeah.
of Tesco's are catching on to that as
Is
well.
that
Yeah.
We had
I
one.
don't know, but
Yeah.
it's
We had
catching.
one recently, didn't we, in Toys R Us, Lish? But the problem
Yeah.
were, which caused a massive amount of distress, were that under the like consumer rights, is it? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, the consumer rights. Basically, it opened at, was it 9, 10 o'clock?
It opened at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we had an hour. Autistic parents with autistic children had
Yeah.
an hour to shop.
Yeah.
When it's on a Sunday with Sunday law, so they couldn't actually buy anything.
So
Until
the
11.
shop, yeah.
So the shop was closed until 11. So that hour, I said, well, that's going to cause the most amount of distress because your child will see something that they want,
They
Get it,
want
and you
it
can't
now.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want that now, and they can't understand, no, you've got to wait an hour. And then, you know, which kind of defeats the whole object. The other thing was, we were also told that all the staff were autism friendly trained, and the ones that we talked to didn't have a clue about autism. So that was a bit worrying as well. So, you know, there was that kind of thing.
See, but then it goes back to the authorities and laws.
Yeah.
Everybody, no matter how, with the best will in the world, some of these people think, yeah, we're going to do this, but they're bound by the book.
Mhm.
They can't do things.
That's what makes
outside
us
the
so
book.
different, because
Yeah.
we can. That's the good thing about us.
Let's change that book and rewrite it.
Yeah, which is exactly what we're doing.
Too right. So, right, we've gone over some of the taboo questions, haven't we? But like, I mean, we should address it. We're here with Mark, and we're never going to get this opportunity.
And we will.
Well, yeah,
We can't say no way. You can't say no way. We will.
But
Yeah,
that's-
we will.
But that's what today's about.
Yeah.
No, but we need to address like the inappropriate issues that a lot of our young boys have, which is getting the privates out in the middle of the front room and touching themselves, don't they? Now, if you've got a parent at home now watching this, and a girl or boy is inappropriately, you know, like playing with themselves, a young, you know, at any age really, it doesn't matter. What would your advice be?
The advice would be that regardless of whether it's sensory or whether it's sexual, quite often it starts off as sensory,
Yeah.
is to treat it all the same, which
Okay.
is that they are directed to a private place, i.e. their bedroom,
Okay.
but also remembering that a private place like a bedroom, to be private, it has to have curtain closed, doors shut, nobody else in the room, all those
Yeah.
sorts of bits and pieces. And when they're showing signs of wanting to stimulate themselves, whether it is that they're going to be actually masturbating, or whether they're going to be, it's just for a sensory reason. They're directed up there, they're in their bedroom, and they're just left to get on with what they want to
But
do.
how do you approach that?
Yeah.
Because I know most prep parents, the first time they see them, they go, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
get up to your bedroom.
So your penis away.
That's probably what your first reaction will be.
Yeah, it's a shock, isn't it?
That's what you want to do, but you
Yeah.
can't because they don't understand. So
Yeah.
how do we approach? What's the right approach?
So I mean, so it's firstly, it's not to panic. That's you know, I mean, even as I've said about sensory, I mean, one of the things is that I get quite a few that are sort of 5, 6 that are doing it. It's not necessarily sexual. It doesn't necessarily mean there's anything dark behind it.
Yeah.
It's just sensory side. So what it really is, it's just about taking it calmly, being prepared to just guide them. If you've got visuals, which I have visuals, I'm nearly scared the bejesus out of it at school yesterday with that one.
So would we have could we get those visuals online? You know, like,
Can we
Now,
access
what we
them?
got? Well, to be honest, remember we're going to do it. The
Yeah.
next training session in Sparkle is puberty, so
Okay.
we'll have all the resources.
And so it's very much a case of when you get the signs of it, whether it's the boy or the girl, it is literally, you know, it's being able to be calm, know that where they're going to be going, know where they're, get them to know where they're going, and be able to show them the picture, take them upstairs.
I think, surely, you know, as a parent or carer, there'd be a build-up to it. You'd see the signs. You'd see that eventually
No.
come in or not.
No.
So,
Not
so
necessarily.
we're not there yet. So
Sometimes you might, especially if it's
No,
around
I did
sensory.
not.
No.
I did not.
But a
Just
lot of it
try
is-
overnight.
yeah.
A lot of it isn't. It's just bang.
Yeah.
That's why one of the things I often say in my puberty talk. It's about being able to be prepared. It's knowing this is probably going to happen.
Yeah.
So having the stuff in place so that time, that day when it's like, oh my God, it's finally arrived, you can go, right, I have the stuff, I don't need to search for it.
but at the same time, like I say, just googling. You know, like you said, there's visuals, there's aids. You know, there's no point in thinking, right, I'm going to get those and use it. I suppose you have to know how to use it, how to present it, how to address it.
Yeah, but
With anything, and you need the advice, the guidance, the training.
But like I said, when it was happening with us, it was already, like I said, it was already an ongoing thing at our house because it was something that he'd always sort of done, especially when he was anxious. So it was sort of more as a calming technique.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was sort of, because it's not something you do, and I'm sorry to sound a bit sexist, but men are more prudish.
Yeah.
It was causing
Problem.
conflict at home,
Bounty.
and that's when thankfully it was just the right time at the right moment that I got to have that talk with Mark. I got to discuss it at home, and I just said, you know, this shouting at him and things is just not going to work. When I did find, it was more me who would see that behaviour than my husband, and I didn't bring it up when it was happening though, because I thought, okay, I just let him have that moment, and it was when afterwards I then sat down and I said, baby, you know, that kind of thing, it's not always seen as the right thing to do for other people.
Yeah.
I suppose you as a parent, as a carer, would know
Will know when it's
you know,
appropriate.
the right time and the right place for
Yeah.
it.
The other thing that we haven't discussed, I mean, we've just discussed the boys' side of things. What about the girls? Because we do have girls on the autistic spectrum. Our Lou's going
Especially
through
when
it.
they're starting like menstruating and things like that. It can be so difficult for these
How do we
girls.
explain that? How do we explain it to them?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
we have an
they're-
expert
they're-
over there. We've got an expert over there.
We've got. There's not just about.
Hmm?
I'll give you some training.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do.
But it's not just about the children here, because
Educating parents.
it's and it's like it takes a lot to gear the parents up to accept that this is going to come, this is going to happen, and this is how you're going to have to deal with it. And a lot of parents, carers, they will, right now they'll say, do you know what? I'm not ready for this right now. I don't want to deal with it when I don't want to do it. Some parents are gung-ho, like, yeah, I'm only going to be ready for every single stage. And then some parents are like, nah, I'll deal with it when it happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's different for every individual as well. You can't, if somebody's just not ready yet, and it is uncomfortable. It is, it is taboo, and it's.
Yeah.
But I still do want to know, how do we deal with it when it comes to girls? Because we've talked about boys, it's important because we've got parents out there that will be listening and they think, okay, they're talking about the boys, but what about the girls? Could they also develop epilepsy as well?
Yep.
Right, okay, see, I didn't
yep.
know that. I thought it
Yeah.
was just focused on
And
boys as well.
it's like there again as well, one of the other aspects concerning puberty, looking sort of away from the sexuality stuff, the social stuff. There's the same piece of research that gave the epilepsy also highlighted that 10% of people with autism will deteriorate during puberty.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
It can get worse.
yeah,
The autism can get worse.
they can regress.
Right.
Part of that is around the social side. So if you see a 15-year-old with autism who's not obviously flapping or doing anything that's overtly autistic,
Yeah.
the society is expecting them to behave like a typical 15-year-old. But if they haven't got the social skills to deal with the world around them, quite often they will retreat into their autistic world because it's safer. They'll have more obsessions because the anxiety is increased. So they will actually seem as though they are
That makes
regressing.
a lot of sense.
That makes it. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I expect that from a lot of.
Well, do you all remember your own puberty and how hellish it was?
Yeah.
So just imagine how it feels.
5
for-
times more.
Yes, and
We've
for a
got-
child who cannot.
Any
Understand
child's
what's
going through
Yeah, all
puberty, the
exactly,
teenage years,
yeah.
they
It's
go from being
horrible.
polite, yes, thank you, open the door for you, to slamming it in your
Yeah.
face, telling you where to go.
Yeah.
So,
I've got
that's
that.
regression.
Yeah.
That's regression. I'm talking about not a non-autistic person,
Yes.
individual.
And you can say you're going through a hormonal change, you can do all that. Try
So, I
explaining
mean,
that to
We're
us.
talking over each other.
Sorry.
But also the other aspect of it is the social world around us makes it harder as well compared to when we went through puberty. I mean, just sort of flipping back to the sexualized stuff, to actually understand what is a normal relationship is harder now, because when we were young, well, certainly when I was younger, the only way you got access to anything that was pornographic was if you had a friend who looked 18 and could reach the top shelf, or you found your brother's stash of magazines. But nowadays, you just go on the internet, bang, you just go on Disney Channel and see the sexualised behaviour that is on Disney Channel.
Yes,
And
yes.
how they build relationships. You look at EastEnders, all the soaps, and see how they have relationships. And you've got all of that, which is where a lot of the teenagers I work with, they're picking everything up from there.
Mimicking it.
I had somebody who turned around to me once when I was doing sex education within a group of teenagers with autism, and he turned around to me and he said, I want to be a taxi driver. Now I knew exactly what he was talking about, because there is a website that is called faketaxi.com, which is basically about a man driving around as a taxi driver. Now they've done it as a female because they actually got caught. Sad thing is, it's just down the road from me. It's a bit worrying. I keep watching out for the taxi drivers. And what he does is he drives around the area, supposedly picks up women and coerces them into having sex. Now that's basically rape. But this lad watched this. He shouldn't have been watching it because he was well underage, and turned around and went, that's what taxi drivers do. And that's what I want to be. I unfortunately burst his bubble when I said no, because actually what they've done is illegal. Now we didn't have any of that when we were younger.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these social norms that are completely different to what we used to have. And so you have to add that on top of
Gosh, you know
everything
what?
else.
Our children got so much to deal with, and different.
That's it.
When you look at the different types of things, even girls, the society thinks that they should look a certain way. So
Yeah.
even that to fit in, they will probably go to the extreme. Our children will go to the extreme, take it a little bit further, get themselves ill, and not eat a thing, just
See,
to fit into society, or just feel. Oh,
I
it's scary.
accept the
Seriously
fact,
scary.
you know, kids that are growing up these days is very different to when we were growing up. I accept that, you know, everything has moved on, technology has moved on, times have moved on, you know, access to social media, you know, what was classed as being, you know, everybody, us growing up as kids, I remember we did an assembly, what do you want to be when you grow up? Everybody wanted to be a doctor, pilot, engineer, nurse, day nurse, you know, a teacher, whatever. Nowadays they want to be a reality TV star, they want to be on the cover of this magazine, and you know, so it's changed. I accept that, but my concern is, whereas neurotypical children, you can, on some occasions, sit them down and you can explain to them the rights and the wrongs, the do's and the don'ts, and they'll get it. You know, whether they choose to implement it or not, that's up to them. But but you can't have that same conversation with an autistic child and expect them to understand. You know,
I think that's
and
and
that-
visuals are going to come into
yeah.
play.
Yeah, we need the visuals.
but it's
Maybe
If-
social stories as well.
Yeah.
But also, it's about
don't step out in front of a car because they'll hit you. You know, a normal child will think, I have an accident. That's not right. An autistic child, but why?
Yeah.
You know, they're like, I like cars. Are you really going to wait for them to get hit by a car or get burned before you tell them, don't do it again? Because that's what happens. You know, they are very black and white. They see the world very black and white.
Yeah.
And what you see is what you get. And trying to explain to them something that this might happen or it could go, you know, it's all right to, you know, give dad, if you're feeling upset, run to daddy or run to anybody else and they'll give you a hug and they'll protect you. It's not all right to for somebody else, but why not? You know, but why? And I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going with
I
this,
understand
what
but
you mean.
it's
You go in with the fact
it's
that
they don't get it. They don't
you
understand.
don't see the danger.
No, they
do
don't see the
Right,
hidden
okay.
dangers.
Okay, now we know that. So how do we fix it? What do we do? Would you say it is visuals and it's processing it that way?
it's
Because we're going to
a-
have to wrap up soon.
Yeah,
aren't we?
it's a mix of stuff. So you've got the visuals, but it's also having to be prepared to go down their logic and answer questions. So, for example, I did sex education with one group. They were an able bunch, so we were talking about different relationships, such as incestuous relationships. He came back the following week. This one lad, and he had some questions that he wanted to ask, which were absolutely ridiculous to most people. But you know, when you've got somebody saying to you, "Well, what about if I'm cloned and I have sex with myself?" Or what about if I time travel and have sex with my mum? What is that? And you know, because of the way he was processing it, you seriously have to answer those types of questions.
Because it made sense to
Yeah.
him.
But that's why we
Yeah.
have to find out how to do it.
Yeah.
How do we do
Yeah.
that?
And it is a lot of repetitiveness as well. I mean, I've quite a few where we go back year after year after year, go through exactly the same sorts of things. But because the processing takes that much longer, sometimes it's taking three of those sessions.
Yes.
And it's also, when it's looking at visuals, for example, you know, if I'm doing sex education with any of the ones I work with, you know, we quite often will talk about contraception. And I have a false penis, which is actually it's a tabletop dildo because you can't get the false penises these days, that they actually have to practice putting a condom on.
I think that's a
you
really
know,
good idea.
Yeah. You know, it's a case of...
You don't want children. I don't want.
but, you know, there
I
was-
want them to have children, but I don't want them to just do it and get sexual transmitted
But see,
disease and stuff.
there
We
were
need
still
them to know.
schools that will use a banana, and you know there was
Well, an autistic child won't understand
He
why you
needs
make
to
that
have a
banana.
banana.
Well, it's not just that. I know of an incident where a school taught that, and 3 months later, one of the students fell pregnant. And when they turned around and said, why didn't you do what we told you to do? They said, we did. We put the condom on the banana and then had sex.
Oh, no.
Literal.
You know,
Literally.
and, you know,
It's literal.
That's
It
it.
is
And I mean,
literal.
yeah, and
Literal.
with the way I teach it, you know full well, I go into the same schools and I've even had people from year 6, because quite often they don't get me until year 8, saying to me, when do we come to your class? When? Because we've heard about the penis. We've heard about the penis. And you know, I've had them, there was one school where they said to me, please don't bring it this year. And the class just all went, but we wanted to practice.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, concerning the stuff like the sexuality stuff, like the puberty stuff, you know, yes, it is about parents having to realise that they're going to have to do it, but also, and this is coming in the research I'm doing, staff. There are so many schools where they know that there are certain staff who will not teach it the right way because they're too embarrassed themselves. You know, and it used to be that it was parents that were stopping the children from learning. Actually, in the research I've done, it's the other way around. It's more about professionals going, oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, I had somebody who thought masturbation was dirty and was going to cut his penis off with a carving knife. He got sent to CAMS. CAMS turned around and said, we can deal with anxiety, we can't deal with the sexuality stuff, don't want to do that, that's going to open up a can of worms. I did 6 sessions with him and he realised, actually, no, you don't want to cut your penis off, I just want to play with it in my bedroom. And so, hey, there he was.
Louise, I know you've got a question that you wanted to
Yeah,
ask.
just talking about puberty. Maisie's 13. She started her periods when she was just after 12.
Yep.
So for last year or so. Talk about regression. She's gone back to watching all the programs she watched when she was a baby. And this has been going on for about a year now.
Yeah.
Also, we've just had parents' evening. She's schoolwork suffering. She's in a bit of her own world.
Yep.
She's doing loads of this scripting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's puberty?
Yeah, I would say puberty and possibly even, you know, to a certain point, a bit of post-traumatic stress. Because especially if you think it was sort of around the time when she started menstruating, things have started to go downhill.
Looking back now.
To some, it's the biggest shock going.
Yeah.
You know, I had somebody who, if she bled from a finger, it was casualty. No,
Well, she was like that, but
yeah.
she shocked me how she's coped with. Because with Maisie, it wouldn't work telling her that this is going to happen because her anxiety levels are massive. So we had to wait till the day, and I just dealt with it where it's alright. It's no worries, happens to everybody. Mummy does it, everybody, go through all family. And she's dealt with it fantastic. It says she has it every 2 weeks as well, which is not normal. That's it.
Right, yeah, okay.
She's done it every 2 weeks for over a year now.
Right.
And she deals with that. Brilliant, something as big as that. I would have thought that I'd have freaked. I would dreading it.
In a sense, it might have, and that's why you've got the regression,
She's got
especially if
that
she's gotten every 2 weeks. That's an awful
So are you,
high frequency.
so are you saying, Mark, that even though Lou's thinking she's dealt with it really well, well, in hindsight she hasn't really, because she's going through this regression.
Yeah.
So it's
It's a
just
shock.
there's a cover. She's put on this one.
It's a bit of a.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit of a comfort thing going back to.
Yeah, it sounds as though what she, especially with the amount of the frequency that she's having up here, it sounds as though partly what she's doing is she's focused so much on coping with that her coping skills and strategies cannot cope with everything else.
And the schoolwork's
so she goes
suffering
back.
a bit.
Yeah.
She's gone from last year at school being really anxious, wanting to get her work done, everything done, and she panics if it's not. So she's quite laid back. She's not bothered about her work.
Because the stress
Not in
is already
everything.
full, isn't it?
Not in every subject.
No.
She's doing all right.
And
It's
also
in,
be just
in
being
our
a normal,
right.
and also where do you then draw the line to just, there's autism and then there's also just being a normal teenager as well.
I mean, certainly.
She's still a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, that in a sense, what needs to be done is just work with her, just to explore the rest of it and just sort of find out, right, okay, are we talking about somebody who's just flipped over and has become a snotty teenager? Or is it that it's a case of her coping strategies are so bad because she's having to deal with something quite intense that, you know, she needs a little bit of extra extra support.
Do you know what I'm thinking as well? I know we have to finish very soon, but
Yeah.
what I'm thinking as well is when our children are very literal, so if you think about it, if there's blood coming from them, they could think all sorts, blood, death. Do you know, it's very
It's not gonna
literal.
stop.
It's not good. Why is it happening? Obviously, even though you tell them, they really don't have a depth of understanding
And she
of why
don't
it's
ask, she's not
happening.
really asked anything
No,
like
that's
that.
what I'm saying.
I mean,
So that's what
I've been
I'm
on
saying.
pill for like 20 odd years.
Can she
And I've
have
come
it?
off it just to show her it happens to me.
Yeah.
And that's only happened this week. And she was quite amazed because
Yeah.
she's on at the minute, and you know, so I could show her, and she was like,
That's really good.
You know,
It's good
Can
that
you
you
do
did that.
so yeah, she was
Can you
told
not
to
get
go.
that though for Maisie? So that it just, not for, for a sexual reason, but so that it can regulate people.
But then it's going back to the medication
know whether I
element,
want to.
yeah,
Well,
you
yeah.
know, yeah.
While she's, is she coping?
If
I
it's
don't know.
natural for her body, then
Yeah.
But either which way, it's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
So it's prolonging what's
Yeah.
already happening. But I really
Right.
have to kind of.
yeah, we're going to have to wrap things up, and we've had a really good discussion on puberty and menstruating and tackling it. Like it's not an easy subject for any child, never mind one with heightened senses. So I just wanted to finish with saying thank you to Mom.
We'll be back, darling.
Yeah, we've supported us for a lot of years, and we ring him up with some pretty stupid stuff, but he always
It's never stupid.
answers with a,
A smile.
yeah, and it,
Forced smile.
yeah, but he's done wonders for our kids, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't have addressed any of this. We are sort of knowing what we're on about. So cheers, Mark.
And we're definitely doing he's definitely doing a talk
Yeah.
on puberty, which I think is
And
a must,
one-to-ones,
isn't it? Yeah.
that's on our Sparkle website, so you can access that by getting in touch with us at Sparkle Sheffield.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.